So before this video starts, I want to address why I haven't been on camera recently. Long story short, the coronavirus has scared piss out of me, so I built a 20 by 20 room fortified with padding and plastic wrap. I've secluded myself in here and I've only got the essentials in here with me. I order my food online now, and whoever delivers it to my quarters has to walk through an entire car wash before they can interact with me. They deliver said goods through a pneumatic tube. You know, one of those vacuum tube things you see at banks. I'm armed to the tits with Lysol cans and hand sanitizer, and I dare a motherfucker to cough around me. Anyway, this video is brought to you by storytelling, because it's important, is what we're gonna talk about today. By the way, if you hear any extra background noise, that's because some assholes decided to do some road work right outside of my house. I don't know what the fuck they're doing here since I live out in the country. Since this is America, they could be building another fucking Publix for all I know. Anyway, I was introduced to creepypastas around 10 years ago and have read countless over the years. What exactly makes them good, or rather what this video is going to be talking about, what makes them bad? I'm sure there's countless other videos on this exact topic, but I'm going off of solely my experience in reading the bad stories that I have. And I'm not going to go into the whole circle jerk of cliches and whatnot. Everyone knows cliches are bad, and anyone these days can spot one a mile away. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. And let's make it quick, because I've noticed that my audience doesn't have the attention span to sit through a 20-minute long video, let alone a 15-minute long video. So I'm gonna condense this down to the best of my ability, since I do have a bit to say. What are those assholes doing? Are they cutting down trees? Yeah, they're building another fucking shopping mall. This is America. So let's talk about what the writers build their story around, the topic of the story. Whether it be a mythical being like Slender Man, Jeff the Killer, the Rake, what have you, or it be a lost episode like Suicide Mouse or Squidward Suicide, or even video games, I've seen so many of these flop in terms of scare factor. In the realm of mythical beings, it's usually fan-made stories that are supposed to add to the mythos of this being that makes them unscary, because everything boils down to one factor. What is scary is fear of the unknown. We don't need stories about the origin of Slender Man or the ongoing adventures of Jeff the Killer and turning him into some sort of hero. Literally, I remember reading stories that made Jeff a protagonist and a hero. So just stop trying to pile shit onto these things that are proven to be best the less you know about them. It does not make them scary. On to lost episodes. So boy, the cornerstone of undercut creepypasta. I could rave about these things in a complete 2-hour-long podcast. Now, I don't know if it's because I'm a total spurg or what, but I do love the topic of lost media. I crave that shit. I snort that shit like crack cocaine off a fat hooker's cellulite ass. On the flip side, it's such a saturated topic to make a pasta about. And, you know, finding a good lost episode creepypasta is like finding a needle in a haystack. And truth be told, I've read so many bad lost episode pastas that I want to set myself on fire and down an entire bottle of Drano. I've even turned so many bad ones away for being, believe it or not, too bad to feature on Undercooked Creepypasta. I don't want to read a story about how you were an intern at Nickelodeon and snuck into the archives to find an episode of SpongeBob wherein the titular character wakes up one day, insanely out of character, mind you, possessed by an evil spirit, with the entire episode encapsulated into just him turning his beloved friends into a bloody paste, and how it made you go insane. If I could harken back to a previous episode of Undercooked Creepypasta for just a moment and talk about SpongeBob schizophrenia. No one wants to read a story this long about the incoherent ramblings of the author trying to get to the bottom of the origin of this lost episode after seemingly previously having undergone a lobotomy. I'm serious, go look back at that story and tell me that it doesn't seem like someone with brain damage wrote it. Stories of episodes of characters acting wildly out of character isn't frightening in the least. It comes off as more parodic than scary. What made Squidward's suicide a tad more believable is because in the story, Squidward's ego was bruised enough to drive him off the deep end. What made Suicide Mouse great, and this could be up for debate, but I think it kind of sets aside the whole out-of-character thing, is that I feel it could be more or less an example of Walt Disney venting. He could have easily made this one going through some personal demons or something like that, and never meant for this to get out. I don't know Walt's character that well, but his private life could have easily been a lot different from his public life, as goes with a lot of people. When doing video games, there's just not much to say about this one. The same principles apply. No bloody satanic rampages or messages of suicide, and no characters that don't act like themselves. One story I haven't covered yet on the show that I'll mention now is the Mario Kart Wii creepypasta. Everything's fine and dandy with the game until the author gets in a race, and then things go awry, and satanic things start to occur, and everything sort of spins out of control. The word suicide flashes on the screen and shit. It's not scary, it's just painfully, incredibly painfully edgy. And then it ends with the author overreacting and saying he never wants to see a Wii again. Oh, man. The damn flashbacks are real. Every time I see a Wii, I think back to that time. Like I mentioned before, and that I'm going to touch on a little more now, is do not make any established character go on a nonsensical murderous rampage, killing all of their friends and or family for no fucking reason. Violence doesn't always equal shock value. Again, it just turns into a Robot Chicken style parody, and it's just laughable. So what does make a story scary? One thing I can say is find a good balance in detail. I think you can go nuts with gore as long as it's tasteful and at least more descriptive than there was lots of blood and gore everywhere. You know, flex your vocabulary a bit. Don't half-ass descriptions of what's shown. If you're planning on making a story about the continuing adventures of Slender Man or Jeff the Killer or some other mythical being, just wad that shit up and throw it down the shitter because you automatically lost that one. Mythical beings are scary because not much is known about them. Let those original stories be good by themselves and write about something else. Jeff the Killer's been bastardized by stories that try to stretch out his lore and, you know, Jane the Killer, and just stop, halt, right there. No more. No more. When I made that fan-made reboot of SuicideMouse.avi, which in case you haven't read it or listened to my reading of it, you can find it in the cards here. But anyway, when I wrote that, I tried to find a good balance of information to make even myself want to find out more about this highly rumored lost film reel from Walt Disney's early days. But what I think is it all comes down to a good balance and consistency of story and character. Find that balance. Try to look at your own story in the eyes of a reader and not someone who wrote it. And if you're invested and crave more information on the origin of whatever it was that you wrote, you can stop there, make some adjustments if need be, maybe get a second opinion or two, and consider it done. If you get a second opinion and they say, oh, this wasn't really good, you didn't explain enough, instead of them saying, this was really good, I want to know more, then maybe add a little bit more detail, tweak some things, you know. It'll definitely take hard work like everything else, but it is up to you if it's worth it or not. Hell, I don't even consider myself a writer, but after consuming so many of these stories, I think I have a good idea of what I want to see in a good creepypasta, or just any story alone. And that concludes my TED Talk on creepypastas. I know I haven't done a video essay style project in a while, and this was whipped up in like one evening, but I do hope you enjoyed and at the most learned something from what I've had to say. So yeah, have a good day or good night or whatever time you're watching this, and I will see you next time. That's the end. I need some fucking Captain Crunch.